When we think of our retirement years, we imagine traveling, spending time with family, enjoying our grandchildren, or doing the little projects we've wanted to do but haven't had the time. But for countless seniors, their reality is far different. Many of them face poverty, homelessness, hunger, or illness due to malnutrition. Whether due to an unexpected death of a spouse, lack of planning, an overwhelming number of hospital bills, or any number of unforeseen problems, seniors can find themselves in a desperate situation in which they never expected to be. This is a generation that is given so much, and now many face a life of silent struggles, but they don't have to face these problems alone.
We're confronted now more than ever with the needs of a growing senior population. We have a large group of 60-plus seniors in the Upper Common, and that group is growing each year. And as we make plans and look into the future, we have to take their needs into consideration, whether that be in planning the growth of the city boundaries, in our transportation needs, in looking how to provide resources for those seniors who have the needs that are not being addressed.
Obviously that's a serious issue. I mean, it's one of those things that it's happening all across the state. We've had people go all across the state to individual regions, including Upper Cumberland, to try to figure out what's going on. And Upper Cumberland particularly has taken a big interest in some of the ways to try to deal with that.
I see a lot of elderly people that have just a very limited support system, and it's very hard for them to get anybody to help them. Most of the time I do home health and have for several years now, and we're sometimes the only people that they see.
You know, in Cumberland County, per populace, we have more seniors than any other county in the state of Tennessee. And it's true that we're a retirement community, so there's a lot of folks that have retired and moved here, and whether you're looking at Fairfield or Tansy or the Cove or out at Pleasant Hill, you expect that if they retired and moved here that maybe they're set financially. But the truth is that after a lot of those retirees move here, they experience a lot of things in their lives that can change their financial status.
Seniors are a population at risk for food insecurity. I think a recent statistic is that over 15 million adults age 15 older in the United States are threatened by food insecurity and hunger every year. And among those adults that are categorized as food insecure, they face a higher risk generally of conditions like diabetes, hypertension, depression that can be negatively affected by poor nutrition and lack of access to food. So
they're a group that really is undernourished. They don't have nutritional needs met a lot of times, and we get that food out to them once a month to try to make a difference, just to supplement.
A large majority of my patients are on food stamps, but they get a very limited amount. Most of the population that we see are the elderly, but back in their time, they didn't work. A lot of the women were homemakers, and so they, didn't pay into the system, so they just get a very limited amount of money.
It is not uncommon for us to get phone calls from communities telling us that there's a retiree that lives here that doesn't have any family around, there's nobody to help them, and their resources have been depleted. A spouse died and all of a sudden the income's cut in half or may be depleted completely.
Many seniors have spent their lives helping other people. Some have served in the military and fought for their country. Others have given of themselves and provided assistance to people who are struggling. Many of our senior citizens have lived their lives placing others' needs before their own.
I was a missionary since I graduated from school back in 1966. First in Vietnam during the war for 2 years, and then back in Dallas was a youth minister for nearly a year and a half to 2. Then I went for 5 campaigns from this area to Russia, establishing a church at Archangel, and then later to China, establishing 3 congregations in the north of China in Daxing, and then down to Shanghai, their fastest growing city, establishing a church there.
Well, I was in stationed in Germany from 1959 until April 1963. During that time, the Vietnamese War started, and also I was in when the, what makes me a veteran is I was in during the Cuban invasion missile crisis, and we had, at that time, we had our warheads up in arms for 3 days, so we were close.
World War II, I was on the island of Okinawa, and it was a sad situation. It was nothing beautiful. You think back at the terrible part of it, there was no women, very few civilians. Most civilians have been killed.
Often those who give so much to others leave spouses behind, spouses who hold on to the memories of the one they loved and the life they lived.
He had malaria fever. He elected died, and that's reason he got that Purple Heart. He got 3 Bronze Stars.
Numerous seniors who have lived selflessly find that they are now the ones in need. Several factors can bring them to this point. Some have given so much to their children that they've not adequately prepared for themselves. Many more have lost spouses and thereby lost a major source of their income. Still others face seemingly insurmountable medical bills.
I have every possible problem that you can think of. Dialysis Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and a number of medical problems. Not having saved as a missionary, having helped put my daughters through Tennessee Tech and an earlier school called Freed-Hardeman University out of Henderson, Tennessee, I had not put money back for like a 501k or any other special savings account.
When the stock market took a hit, a lot of their retirement funds took a big hit, and their situation changes when a spouse dies or becomes ill, and there's high medical bills.
He worried yourself sick. He said, honey, if something happens to me now, what will you do?
Whatever the reasons, these seniors now face hardship at a time when they should not have to worry about the basics of life.
If they get a cost of living increase, then they get their food stamps deducted even more, or their rent goes up. So if they get an increase in anything, something usually is decreased.
Well, I guess the government, the politicians are trying to do me good, but the gasoline went up 50 cents on the gallon, bread, milk, and everything goes up, which takes all your raise. But I think housing forgets this, because then they raise your rent because you got a raise, and then it totals out in effect, you've got a negative raise.
If it hadn't been for us, me and my husband, taking care of food and different bills and things that they had, there was times they would have done without. And it really hurt me that no one had taken the time or the effort to tell these veterans that they had benefits.
There are so many people that are only able to have Medicare. They fall in the category where they either make too much or they don't make enough, and they can't afford a supplemental insurance, or they can't get into a Medicare savings program. And it's very hard to get people enrolled in that right now.
When I retired and started drawing my Social Security, I got my first cue right there that I didn't know what was going on, because instead of retiring at 65, I worked an extra year and retired at 66. And when I signed up on my Social Security, they penalized me 6 months for signing up a year late after I saved them a year's pay.
Many of our seniors face these hardships alone, with no family to help them through. Others enjoy the benefit of a family member or loved one who can be their caregiver. But being a caregiver can present challenges. Providing care to a parent or loved one while trying to balance a job and a life of your own can be overwhelming and can take its toll.
When Mama died on December 11, Daddy was not well, had not been well for some time, and was declining. And I really had my hands full. Not only was I sitting at the hospital with Mama, just trying to take turns taking care of him, so I realized right off the bat that I was going to have to do something to take care of him. So I was staying here at night, and then I'd leave this home at 6 o'clock in the morning and go to my home and then go on to work from there, and it was very hard. Had to take him to the doctor several times during all that. Just seemed like I just could not gain any ground.
Our family caregiver program here in the Upper Cumberland, we really strive to meet the needs of our caregivers and their loved ones. Here at our area agency, we offer home and community-based services for our caregivers to give to the care recipient or their loved one. We offer home and community-based services such as homemaker, personal care, and home-delivered meals. Recently, we've been very fortunate to be able to have the funding to provide counseling for our caregivers, which has made a tremendous difference in their lives. A lot of our caregivers face isolation, so having someone to come in and talk to them about their depression and what they're going through has been very, very helpful for us.
They immediately told me that Daddy would qualify for certain aspects of care. There was levels that he would be able to qualify for. One of those being Meals on Wheels, which has just been amazing. Not only is it good food, the conversation and the rapport that they have, they look for him. If he's not here, they call me immediately, "Where's your daddy?" And then the lady that comes from home health.
Well, we just couldn't do without Joy. And she came to us when we really needed her so badly and relieved Diane of course, she had her job to work, so it's relieved her on my part.
I came up here and he was feeling kind of rough at the time when I first started coming up here, and I encouraged him to do what he can for himself, and I let him know that, you know, the world's not coming to an end. He can keep going to God, that God would want him to keep going.
It took us a couple of days to kind of get used to each other. I had been trying to clean the house. I would literally, you can imagine, taking care of 2 homes. So I would tell Joy, you know, I've done so-and-so, or I've done this room and I've not done the washing. Can you change his bed? Or, you know, can you see to the refrigerator? Just the normal aspects of taking care of someone else's home. So after a point, I finally said to Joy, I'm not going to interfere with anything you want to do. This house is yours. You take care of it. And I don't ask her any questions. She does a marvelous job.
I don't just treat my people like a job. I treat them like I would my own family.
She cleans up any dishes he has and then begins her daily routine. So she even takes care of the flowers. I left the flowers. I said, Joy, will you put these in the ground for me? And you know how pretty the house looks. So she's just been a godsend to us. And so I told her this week, I said, do not ever consider leaving me.
Another program that we've been trying to implement here in the Upper Cumberland is a program called REST. We've used the Markland model. We recruit volunteers from the community to come in and give our caregivers respite. And respite is just a short break, because like I said earlier, a lot of our caregivers are isolated. So this helps them out tremendously. We've also been partnering with a local university, Tennessee Tech, and we've been getting interns from their sociology department. Last semester I had 1 intern, and the semester before I had 2. So far we've been able to come up with over 200 hours of respite that has been provided to our caregivers, which has made a huge difference. Caregivers are just really they're underpaid individuals. A lot of them quit their jobs in order to take care of their loved one. So there's just a huge need for it, especially with the seniors, what we call the baby boomer generation coming up and aging. So what you're having now is we're having what we call a sandwich generation. So you have people that are in their 50s who have a child in the home, but then also have an aging parent. So they're really struggling. So we're really just trying to struggle here in our agency to come up with resources for them. Funding streams are very limited, so anything that we can do outside the box is very helpful to our caregivers. And the REST program has just been a wonderful, wonderful tool to help combat that.
Though there are obstacles facing many of our seniors, and the future they face may seem discouraging, there is hope. Individuals, community groups, and government agencies who are aware of their plight are working together to overcome these obstacles.
One of our mottos is providing solutions through regional cooperation. And when we think about that, a lot of times we think about crossing county lines to pull the resources of our county governments, but it also means reaching out to our civic and our charitable organizations and certainly our faith-based organizations, trying to pool all the resources in the Upper Cumberland and trying to help the various needs that we have.
One of the programs that the state of Tennessee offers for help with elderly is called the Choices Program. And the Choices Program is what I work with, and as an RN, I go out and evaluate elderly and also disabled in the community. And you have to be 65 and older or 21 and older with a disability to qualify. And there are some financial limitations. And what we do is we go out and evaluate what the clients are able to do or where they're lacking in safety issues. And we do what's called a PAE, a preliminary evaluation, and assessment evaluation. And we go out and sort of fill this out, send it to TennCare, and this is a TennCare program. TennCare determines whether they think that they would be eligible, and then once they get on the program, if they're eligible, then we provide services in the home. It's a home and community-based service.
When I go to the doctors, which I do very regularly, 2 last week and 1 this week coming, Medicare and TennCare pay completely for me. So I don't have to pay when I do that normally.
In conversation, you mentioned VA benefits, and I had always wondered about that, but I couldn't really get a straight answer. And Woody didn't pursue it. It wasn't anybody's fault but my own. I should have went deeper. You stated the fact that you felt like he should have been drawing his benefits, and quite maybe for some time. So within days, I hunted up all of his service records, got those to the VA representative here in Livingston, and immediately, within minutes, he said he should have already been drawing, and he told me the scale, and it was nearly $1,000 more a month than what him and Mama would have been getting through Social Security.
Our goal is to keep them in the home because it's a home and community-based service. And instead of them going to the nursing home, which is extremely expensive for the state of Tennessee, we can put them back, keep them in the home, which is better for them, and provide services for them, and it's cheaper for the state, and it's better for the clients. So it's a terrific program, and it's one that we're sort of trying to promote and let people know that it's out there and trying to help our elderly in the community.
His health and attitude had improved, and he would tell me, he would say, if I can just live a little while longer. You're getting everything in place. If I can just live a little while longer. And he said, I know we miss Mama, but said we can get through this. And we did. You know, shortly after the first of the year, we found out he had been approved for benefits from VA. Things started to move very quickly. I got the letter that said, you know, he's going to get $925 more every month. I mean, it was just like, oh my gosh. And started buying things for him that we wanted him to have.
There are simple, common sense solutions to these problems. Solutions that prevent waste and at the same time put nutritious food on the plates of seniors who desperately need it.
The folks here in Upper Cumberland have actually been involved in gleaning, which is a very interesting concept. Basically, all you're doing is going behind you make an agreement with a farmer, and then you go behind the mechanical equipment that picks up the food, and you pick up the stuff that they don't get. So on big farms, obviously when the farmers go through and harvest, they're going to drop a lot of stuff. And it's easier for them just to plow it under and not worry about it. So gleaning basically is picking up the stuff that nobody caught the first time around. You can do it at farmers markets as well, the stuff that they're going to throw out at the end of the week. That food is still edible. And what gleaning basically does is you take that food that otherwise was going to be thrown out, you collect it, and then you basically send it out and give it to people who are hungry. In this region, we found fairly quickly that there are large farmers. And most of the gleaning stuff that we talk about deals with fresh vegetables and fresh produce. So you're talking about healthy food. There are lots of farms up in this region which have been really, really great to work with the gleaning folks. And the entity that's kind of responsible for it is the Society of St. Andrews.
Society of St. Andrew is a nonprofit ministry. Our mission is to eliminate food waste at the farm level. We want to see food end up on plates of hungry people and not in the landfill or left in the field to rot. In the United States, each year we waste about 130 billion pounds of food, and that statistic doesn't actually take into account one of the biggest sources of food waste at the farm level, which is food that's left in the field. It's actually never harvested, so it doesn't really enter the system of accounting. Our Tennessee office opened in 2010. Since then, we've been able to distribute over 11 million servings of food. Last year, we moved 88,000 pounds of food to agencies in the Upper Cumberland area of Tennessee. And across the state, we were able to distribute 160,000 servings of food to agencies that work specifically with seniors.
Community outreach was a part of our festival and our nonprofit, and actually our very good friends Cindy and Steve Cooper of Cooper Recycling were telling me about the food pantry up here last May, I think, at the festival. And we'd already started gathering food to just distribute it on our own, and we decided to target this area and bring stuff up on the mountain. And then we took in a certain amount of money at the festival as donations, went to Second Harvest Food Bank in the hippie bus, and came up here and brought a big old load of food, and it was kind of on at that point.
60 to 70% of our patrons are over the age of 60 or under the age of 18. Most of them, probably 80%, have less than $100 a month of food stamps. And so it's not like we're supplementing, we're actually feeding. And so we give them a food box each week. We usually try to give them drinks, bread, vegetables. A lot of times we hear that what they need is the greens that they can't afford to eat healthy with. And so when we're able to do that, we really are pleased with Second Harvest and Feed America First, who provide us with that.
We've got some churches that are saying, you know what, we've got some property around our building. What say we plant a garden? One of the churches has got 50-something acres. Another one out in Fairfield said, we've got 12 acres. They want to plant beans, corn, cucumbers, tomatoes, potatoes. Those are great staples. Those are things that'll go a long way for families.
Our seniors are facing real challenges, and they have basic needs that are not being met. We must do our part to help meet those needs and find the answers to these problems. This is no small task, but if we marshal our resources as a community, we can do it.
Who asks for a little food that isn't hungry? I don't think anybody.
It's not so much about proving that there's a need, because I believe that our community understands that we have seniors out there that are not being fed, that are not getting all the nutrition that they need to survive and to have a thriving life. Our community, I think, understands that. The frustration is we don't know the solution to try and help that. And that's hopefully through this documentary, we'll be able to provide some solutions to fit our region, to fit our area.
If we don't get it resolved right now, it's just going to get worse. So the more innovation we can put into the processes now, like gleaning and community gardens and anything else, the better we're going to be as we deal with this growth of people moving into the aging category.
There's ways that the community can come together and say, if there is a hunger issue, there's plenty of ground, we can plant gardens, we can harvest the food, we can provide volunteers, we can get it sorted, we can get it out to families. There's just not a reason for anybody to be hungry, not children and certainly not seniors. That's a generation that we owe so much to, and there's just absolutely no excuse for communities not to address that unmet need.
many ways you can get involved and make a real difference in the lives of our senior citizens. To find out how you can help, please call the Upper Cumberland Development District at 931-432-4111 or online at www.ucdd.org/aging.